video interview with Matthew Hornor of Maple Gold, and they have a relationship with AGNICO Eagle, which has been in our top tier for quite some time. And usually you don't see a relationship with a junior and a major. We're going to get into that in a moment. But Matthew, before we get there, can you give me some background on your team and the board of directors?
Yeah, happy to do that, and thank you for having me, David. Our company was formed, many years ago with the first discovery at the site, and it's gone through a number of different hands, different management teams, different board of directors. I came into the scene about 3.5 years ago and set about doing a couple of things, some fundamental changes in the software, as I like to call it. To your question about the board and management team, I would say that's more the software of the company. Hardware is the nuts and bolts on the ground activities. So the team is comprised from the board. That includes Maurice Tagami, who's VP operations for Wheaton Precious Metals. There's Michelle Roth, who just joined. She's had a long, extensive career in mining, also runs an IR firm. Sean Charland, who brought me in originally as a capital markets guru here in Canada. And then there's Gerald Riverin. He's a geologist who started with Inmet and First Quantum many years. He's a very famous geologist from Quebec. And myself. That's on the board. In the management team, I'm the CEO and president. I come from a mining career with a company called Ivanhoe Mines. Robert Friedland is a well-known figure, of course, in the mining space. Outside the mining space, I like to say no one's ever heard of him, but within the mining space, he's kind of like Bono. And I worked with him going back to 2005, I think it was, where he hired me away from a law firm in Tokyo and asked me to join to kind of organize a lot of the M&A deals, a lot of the strategic partnerships. And I was sitting in Tokyo at that time, and he asked me to move to Beijing and helped with Oyu Tolgoi and Ivanhoe Mines, and also Ivanhoe Mines 2.0 in Africa, South Africa, etc. And so that's kind of where I came from when I stepped into this company 3.5 years ago, as I mentioned, and brought into the team somebody from Deloitte to run the company's finances. Greg Orr, former audit partner from Deloitte. We have Fred Speidel as a VP Exploration. He also was recruited by myself and Dave Broughton, who is another strategic advisor, somebody with whom I worked at Ivanhoe Mines. Some of the strategic advisors also include Giusio Bianchini. He was with BMO, ran their mining metals group for 26 years or something like that, was vice chair at Ivanhoe Mines up until recently. Timo Juristo was Goldcorp, et cetera. So we have a number of key players, I think, that we've brought to the table since in my tenure, and that's really what's attracted, I think, some of the interest from some of the major groups.
Well, if you do any analysis for even an armchair investor that's in this sector, even at a slight level, one of the keys is people. And obviously, you have credentials that are above and beyond most what we hear. So thank you for outlining that. What is some of the most significant accomplishments that Maple Gold to date?
Well, 2020 was, for us, a banner year. We had been working in the trenches for a number of years to try to get to the point where we could form a transaction, form a partnership, a strategic alliance with a major company like AGNICO Eagle. But it didn't come about overnight. It wasn't because the gold tape got hot last summer. AGNICO and others were in our data room for a good part of 2 years, in some cases longer than that. So I think that is one of the most significant accomplishments to date. But I would say it goes back even before that to really when we started. I mentioned the software. We did a lot of things that most of the investors, David, would consider to be boring. Don't make the news releases. They are, bringing costs down from office leases to making sure the team is running in a nice sequential format, meaning we don't outsource a lot of the IP to subcontractors to understand the rocks. We did the modeling, 3D geologic modeling that allowed our VPX, Fred Speidel, who's an absolute genius, figure out what the pathfinder is on the project. That happened. We elected to go with a more conservative group on the resource estimate, and I think a lot of those kind of together are our greatest accomplishments. Just changing really the company's the ethos of the company from the ground up, from everything we do on an everyday basis. We kind of brought it up to the standards that all of us are used to, working in the Ivanhoe Mines work and Goldcorp and other companies, where this is kind of how bigger companies run. And I've always thought of Maple Gold as a multi-dollar stock company. Even when we were at our all-time lows, I knew that the basis of the projects, the merit of the projects, ultimately would see us through to greater heights. I always look at it as a kind of a Berkshire Hathaway approach, where you focus on the rocks, you support your team on the ground to drill and find more ounces. The value is created there, and the rest takes care of itself, and we've seen that happen. So sorry for the long-winded answer, but it's really a culmination of things.
Absolutely. Well, Matthew, let's drill down a little bit more maybe on the Agnico Eagle and the opportunity that this partnership that's been formed takes for Maple Gold. In other words, what makes this partnership, in your view, or my words, ideal setup for, let's say, going it alone and making a discovery?
Well, in our case, it was not too dissimilar to many discoveries, but different from some, in that the first discovery hole, as I mentioned, was 40-something years ago, 1976, I think it was. And there's been a lot of people looking at kicking the tires of this project. We had some other players come in, way before my time, decades before my time. The ounces, 3 million ounces, are there. They've been shown to be there and valid by RPA. But I think in our case, because this project has been around for so long, it really needed to have somebody like Agnico change the hearts and minds, as I like to say, of the investor community, and to put kind of a seal of affirmation of validity to the project. And I think that's one of the main things it does for us. I mean, it shows that somebody other than us believes in the potential of the project, which is really everything. And once that happens, there's a shift in thinking, and people say, well, this is something that has a real potential to go someplace. So that's one big part of it. But what that also brings with it, I mean, Agnico is, I would say, one of the best, or the best gold mining companies on the planet. And it's not just because they're very good at what they do. And I know you're already a part of the indoctrinated, in fact, that you love Agnico, but to a man and to a woman in their organization, they're just excellent human beings. The ethics and the way they carry themselves, the type of deals they do, the way they focus on diligence of the procedure, the whole negotiating process. I cannot say enough nice things about them. Sean Boyd is an absolute gentleman. Jean Robitaille, Peter Neptupsky, the entire deal team, everybody's been just an absolute pleasure to work with. And it doesn't mean that we didn't have points of negotiation, because that's always what happens. But you can still do it in a way that shows you why it is that they have very low turnover. They have people that have been there for 35 years, and they were a summer intern, cracking rocks back 35 years ago. They love working there. So there's the first part is what I mentioned, the ethics of the company and the way they approach things is great. And so what that tells the market is, they do their diligence, they do hard work. We get the access to their brain trust of geologists and technical team. They have a 109-person technical team within their company. It's an engineering firm. They're contributing $18 million to the joint venture projects for 4 years, in addition to making strategic investments in a corporation. And they know more about the rocks up there and finding bigger deposit areas in around other mines than anybody else in Quebec, for sure. Also, as you tell, they're contributing their namesake project to this joint venture, so they care. I mean, Eagle Telbel, as you know, was their first, and in that, it means something to make sure that it works. So we now have not only all the great things about their company and what kind of light that shines on us in a positive way, the technical team, we have a diversity now of assets in our portfolio between us with Douay and Jutel. So for all those reasons, and of course the cash balance for us is changed dramatically. For all those reasons, I think it was definitely the right deal at the right time versus us doing what I call the cycle of insanity, which is what a lot of the junior mining companies do. They do a fundraise, they drill, they hope to have 9 winner holes, and that'll change everything, and then they can raise money at higher prices and all the rest. But oftentimes it's just an insane loop where you expect to get a different result doing the same thing, and that's my definition of insanity, or one of them. And this breaks us from that cycle completely, and shows us that now we're kind of elevating our profile. We're getting into the bigger leagues. I think the upside going forward is just absolutely tremendous.
Excellent. What's your current valuation and cash balance, and what strategy do you have to grow shareholder value?
Our current valuation is, I think, 125 million Canadian. Our cash balance after completing a recent financing was a bought deal from BMO, one of the premier Canadian mining bank. We're over $20 million in cash. We have $18 million committed by AGNICO, so in committed capital and treasury, we have $40 million. And then, of course, if you include warrants that can be exercised over the next year and a half or so, and along with the AGNICO warrants, but there's another $22 million there. So we're very well capitalized in that respect.
Yeah, and a lot of juniors aren't, and I hope you're not taking offense calling a junior. I know 3 million is a lot of ounces, and that's why AGNICO's involved. Why should investors consider Maple Gold as an investment right now in 2021?
Well, I think it's pretty clear. I mean, we have an incredible program coming up, 10,000 meters of drilling. We're just getting started. This is when I think all the fun starts. We get to now work with this incredible partner at both these projects, beginning with Douay, on a 10,000 program to run everything forward and drill all the targets that we've come up with. And there'll be a tremendous amount of news flow over the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months on talking about what we're doing with them in their joint venture. And of course, we have other ideas outside their joint venture as well. So there are results coming in from this current drill program that we just completed, that we put out our press release this morning, giving an update to the market as to why we like what we're doing there. We have the joint venture formation, final definitive documentation that we expect to be completed the next few weeks. And then over time, there's going to be plenty of information as we build the ounces, as we expect to build the ounces at both projects, and look closely at Jutel. Of course, the other thing that needs to be mentioned is Jutel is undergoing a digitization process of all their historic data. So when that package is ready to be brought to the market will understand what we understand about that, and why we're happy to have that as part of our package. So I think we're just at the beginning. I mean, this is the jumping off point. We've been re-rated as we should have been. I think we were 38, 125 million bucks. I think the re-rating should move us even higher than this, and then over time, as we move the project forward in the next year or two, things are going to only get much sweeter for everybody, in my opinion, as a happy shareholder.
All right, Matthew. Well, I think we've covered everything that I want to. I would like to do a top view, but the important part, financing's there, people are there, project is there, well thought out, well researched, probably dug deeper than a lot that are out there in, let's say, the competitive arena. Is there anything that we haven't discussed, Matthew, that you would like our viewers to know?
Well, I think you're right, Dave. We covered all the basics. One of the other things, the intangibles are things that are often sometimes missed by the market. And I think that fundamentally, when I looked at this project at the beginning to take on this job, now 3.5 years ago, I went down my investor checklist, and some of the things that I would encourage, and I'm sure you do the same, David, is you look at all the different things. The fundamentals to any project or any company are the same across industries, actually, but in mining especially so. So I think it should not be forgotten that we're in Quebec, which is one of the top-rated mining jurisdictions on the planet. So that's something to be remembered. It's a well-supported mining industry, something that people should not lose sight of. I mean, if you're an investor looking at us or anybody else, that's something to consider very carefully. And as you mentioned, the cash the management team have done there, and also the project has ounces, which is another box that should be checked by anyone looking at the mining industry, which is not easy market to invest in and be successful. So I think some of those intangibles, create a checklist. I would recommend everyone make a checklist for themselves for all the names they hold, and just see how they all match up. And I think that over time, we now have a strong cash balance. And what gold does, I don't know going forward. I think there's going to be some choppiness in the market, especially politically in the U.S. What's going on. But over time, no matter what happens, the stimulus is going to push gold and all real things higher. And having cash with a strong platform enables you to do so many things and to really grow the company in a way that creates really a meaningful next level Canadian gold story, which is what we're all about.
Well, Matthew, I want to thank you for your time and the superb outline on your company, Maple Gold, and we wish you every success. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, David. Thank you for your time too.